Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1332, written by NotIsuna, The Silent Watchers. My girlfriend and I were visiting the Arches and the Canyonlands area for the weekend, and ended up heading out pretty late from Moab to get into the Canyonlands, about a 45-minute to 1-hour drive. A few years previous, I'd gone there myself and stayed until the moon rose, because that meant people were leaving, and as a field recordist, that meant a quiet environment to record in. That night in 2020, the moon was bright and there were a few night photographers there that I ended up hanging out with, and it was generally a surreal experience and I felt completely safe. Hoping to have a similar time again with my girlfriend along for the ride, and forgetting the fact that maybe the clouds would largely block the moon that night, I drove us up. It was pretty dark before we even made it 15 minutes along the drive there. Having been there, more specifically Mesa Arch, twice before, and this being a borderline spiritual place for me, I didn't even think about danger or anything of the sort. Despite that, I had a sixth sense type of gut feeling pretty early on that we shouldn't head up there that night. Not wanting to freak myself out or my girlfriend, I didn't say anything or think much of it, and chalked it up to just being nervous because it was dark. There was a certain vibe along the roads leading up, and we noticed there were people leaving the park, but no one coming in ahead of us or behind us. The instinct to not continue hit me subtly a few more times, and I kept pushing it away like an idiot. I've been very familiar with these instincts over the past years, and they've served me well as far as I can tell. I think I genuinely thought I was just scared because it was dark. We ended up at the Mesa Arch parking lot, where 2 cars were parking up and heading out. When they left, it was almost completely dark, with only the faintest glow of the moon through the clouds, and not a person anywhere near us. Canyonlands is pretty remote. We get our backpacks on, grab a couple of things, and my girlfriend makes sure I've got my concealed carry. She doesn't usually care much, so this struck me as an indication she may be concerned too. We start heading up. It's a pretty short trail, maybe a quarter mile. All we wanted to do was this little bowl-like area, the main destination, and hang out to record some sounds. The area is pretty open, with trees both live and dead scattered around, bushes and small cacti, and rocky slopes that can be climbed in a few seconds. It's a pretty dope scene in the daytime. I've never felt uneasy here previously. We've been doing a bit of travel vlogging so far, so I continued doing that. I genuinely get goosebumps and chills every time I think about this part. It was the weirdest feeling I've ever felt. I felt the instinctual, I should get out of here, I'm being watched, etc. type of feelings before, and have several stories to tell from those, but I've never felt what I felt while vlogging tonight. This might not seem relevant, but for context, the field recording I do is largely of gathering wood and rock sounds. Canyonlands has Navajo sandstone and juniper wood, both of which sound wonderful when tumbled and rolled around. I think of field recording as an art, yes, but also as a way to appreciate a land in closer way, at least for me, than just taking pictures of it. I feel like I'm capturing the essence of a location in a very respectful way. As I'm vlogging, I felt something I can only describe as a need to show that I was there peacefully and with respectful intent. I didn't hear anything or see anything that would indicate that I needed to show I was here on peaceful business, but I felt it so strongly. Again, I didn't want to scare my girlfriend, so I didn't say this. I figured I was just feeling on edge being in near complete darkness. We could barely see our own feet on the easy open trail. We kept our lamps off to let our eyes adjust to the glow, but I turned mine on to read a plaque. My girlfriend mentioned I should probably turn it off so I don't create shadows and freak us out, so I turned it back off. I also felt like I was spotlighting myself by having it on, and I was about to turn it back off before she said that. We continued, and the uneasiness only grew. This lasted until we both reached the same exact spot on the trail and stopped at the same time in silence. "I think we should go back," my girlfriend said, and I agreed. Never have I felt a stronger feeling of being unwelcome in a place. It felt like we hit a barrier. Not only did I feel unwelcome, it was more particularly the feeling of intruding on a congregation, meeting, or gathering that we were not invited to. I don't know how to describe this feeling at all beside that, and it was not a conscious thought, it was just there, as these kinds of instincts tend to be. At that point, I realized I'd been ignoring these feelings long enough, and it was most certainly time to go. I have no idea what was going on in that little bowl we were about to reach, but I didn't want to find out. We made our way quickly back to the car. Soon as we got back, we heard a large pack of coyotes quite nearby, but in the opposite direction we'd been heading on the trail. If we continued on that trail, it was not coyotes we would have run into. Still, this felt like an additional cue to leave, and my girlfriend said, "That's our cue." I badly wanted to record their yips, but common sense took over and we got the hell out of there. The road, completely devoid of any sign of other people, was particularly eerie. Driving back wasn't just trying to get back to our campsite in Moab. It felt like we were escaping, like when you turn off the lights and run up the stairs. Now, relatively safe in our car, we discussed what had just happened. Every single unspoken, strong gut feeling I had, my girlfriend had felt the exact same things at the same times. Both felt the need to show something, someone's, that we meant no harm by vlogging and being chill outwardly. Both felt multiple times both on the drive there and on the trail that we shouldn't go. Both felt at the same time that we were like actors on a stage being watched by a multitude of something. Both felt unwelcome, like we were crashing a party. Both felt that we needed to go at the exact same point on the trail. None of these were spoken aloud to each other at any point until we were back on the road. Get the helling out of there. As we drove, the moon became visible for a bit. I'm not familiar with moon stuff, but there had been a full moon a few days before, and that night it was large, not full though, and red. This was because of the red sand in the air from the windy day we'd had, I think. But my girlfriend said that also meant bad juju. Looking into the history of the region, and even stories of strange happenings at Mesa Arch, I'm sure we avoided something strange and or dangerous. Sometimes the places you love can get spooky things going on when you're there at the wrong time. Case Notes of File 1332, The Silent Watchers. Many people leaving the park, indicating that the shared dread may have been universal and thus very potent. The red moon would also add on top of the pile of signs, if you want to consider that biblical angle. That part could be a coincidence, though, as you suggest, from particulates in the atmosphere from an earlier windy day. The Canyonlands area is indeed a very dry, sandy, and red place. The silver lining to this is, while I do think there were spirits there that considered your presence to be a form of trespassing, that you both received internal warnings simultaneously, and the big one at exactly the same time and place on the trail. I think that indicates some of the spirits there were less harsh in their view, and wanted to offer an ample warning before any other action was taken against both of you. Kind of similar to if you trespass on most people's places now, they're not just going to open fire instantly, they'll give you a warning to leave, most of the time. So I think most spirits would be like that too. They do consider this holy ancestral land, perhaps, but they don't just want to, whatever ghosts would do, to fire away. Now time for the quote of the day. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful what we pretend to be. Kurt Vonnegut. It's that other saying where you are what you do, and initially you could say you're pretending, because you're not that good at it yet. If you put 100 hours into something, a skill, a hobby, you'll be reasonably skilled at it. Of course, maybe not at the professional level. There's different layers and theories on how much time you have to put in to master something, like the 10,000 hours thing, and I think that's maybe true for absolute mastery, but you definitely don't need that much time to be decent and pretty good at something. A few 100 hours, you can improve really well, depending on your base level of talent. And to me, that's, I think, what talent is. Talent is just the base level where you start at. Like in an MMORPG where your character's skill is tracked by a specific number, like 1 to 99 in RuneScape or 1 to 300 in World of Warcraft. Those with a lot of talent, innate talent in any given field, they might start at like level 50 mining instead of 1. And you have no talent at all, you start at level 1. So you can both still get to the max level, and there's probably no difference if you both do. It just, for people without talent, it might take longer. But that doesn't really matter. If you enjoy pretending to be a carpenter, or a brick mason, or a orator, I mean, that's exactly what I did. I pretended to be a narrator for a long time until I eventually became one. Whatever it is you enjoy doing, even if you don't have any natural talent, that's okay. You're starting at level 1. If you enjoy it, just keep at it, and eventually you'll reach the same level where other people may have, by default, been level 50, and it took you 2 years to reach that same level, but now you're even, and now you can progress. Life isn't fair, but that doesn't mean you can't out-earn the unfairness. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.